We are solving a single rational inequality. When we say rational, what should pop into your mind is fraction with a variable, and an inequality, of course, is the inequality symbols in it. So we're going to start with one that's just a single inequality. Let me change the color there. So it's going to be 2x minus 5 all over x minus 6 is less than 0. So this one here is a rational inequality. So one of the things that you want to do is go back to the same thing that you've done before and change it to an equal sign, because we've done rational expressions before, and we've done rational equalities before, equations. So I changed it to 2x minus 5 over x minus 6 equals to 0. So one of the things that you need to know is this, that when you multiply both sides, if I want to get rid of the denominator, when I multiply both sides of it, it's going to be 2x minus 5. And if I multiply this by x minus 6, because let's say that we wanted to get rid of the fractions. We really don't right now, but if we did, what would happen is that this would cancel out, and then this is still going to be 0. So then you're going to get with 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. And so when anything is equal to 0, we know from previous that that's going to be the y value, and so therefore when I solve for it, it's going to be my x-intercept. So when I solve here, the denominator is always going to be canceled if it's in this format, so the numerator is always going to give us the x-intercepts. So the main thing you need to know here is that the numerator is always going to be the x-intercepts when I set it equal to 0. Okay, so the numerator is always going to give us the x-intercepts when we set it equal to 0. So let me rewrite that. So it's going to be the x-intercepts, and it's going to be from the numerator equal to 0. And the reason being is what we just talked about. Okay, now the problem here, and we're going to erase that a little bit because we don't want to. That was just explaining why the numerator is equal to the x-intercepts. But what about the denominator? From previous lessons, we know that the denominator is going to give us the extraneous solutions. So the extraneous solutions are going to be coming from the denominator equal to 0. That means that it's not going to be included in the graph. It's not going to be included in our answers. So what I do here is I set the numerator equal to 0, and then I solve for it. So I get x is equal to 5 halves. And then I set the denominator, so this is my numerator, and then my denominator, I set that equal to 0, and I get x minus 6 is equal to 0, x is equal to 6. So here, this is the x-intercepts, and this here is my extraneous solution. That means that I cannot include it. So if I have a graph, I am going to have an x-intercept at 5 halves, and at 6, I am going to have an open circle because it cannot include it. Whatever it is, it's not going to include it. And then I have my x-intercept there. I know that because it's also not going to be included because it's an inequality without an equal sign. So it's just less than or greater than. It's not greater than or less than or equal to. So I know that that's not what it's going to be So I know it's not going to include the x-intercept. It's just going to show that I have that. So I'm going to put an open circle there. Okay, now here's where you're going to use your calculator, because this one's going to give you, it's not like the parabola where we know what it's going to do. You need to actually graph it. So you're going to need to use your calculator for this part, and then see what it looks like. So when you do it, make sure that you put in that it looks like the fraction on there, and I know that your calculator could do that. So make sure that in your calculator, the numerator and the denominator, it looks like this. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues if you don't put it in correctly into your calculator. Now, what it actually does is that at 6, it's an extraneous solution, so it's going to be this dotted line. That can't be an answer in any of the problems. So the extraneous solution just means that it's not going to be there. And then what it does is that it's going to look like, when you get into the calculator, it's still, this one is an x-intercept. It's just not including because it's there. So we leave an open dot, but it's still going to go through it like this. And this one is going to be up above, and so it's going to look like that. Now, I do not expect you to be able to do that in your head and what the graph looks like, and I do expect you to use your calculator for that part. But if you look at it, you know that if this was an equal sign, if I had this to be an equal sign, this would be filled in. But because it's not there, it's not filled in, and that's why it is. But it's still going to go and cross that there. And then the only one that is not going to be crossed is the extraneous solutions, because you can't divide by 0. So 6 can never be an answer. So now we go back to this problem up here. Once you have the graph on there, you go back to the problem, and when you look at the problem here, it doesn't have an equal sign, but what you want to do is you still are asking, this whole part is still the y values. So I want to know when the y values are less than 0, or in other words, when the y values are negative. So when are the y values negative? And then the y values are negative right here. They're below the x-axis, so that's when they're negative. This one here does not, and eventually we'll talk about why it actually ends up being that later on in the semester. But right now you just need to graph whatever's on the calculator. This is going to help you for later lessons. But if I look at this, these are the only values that are negative. So my answer to this problem is that it's going to be between 5/2 and 6. And it's not including 6 because it's an open circle, so we're going to do that. It's not equals to, so this is really, if you look at it, that's really an open circle. And so we have that. That's really an open circle there. So that also is not included. So that's a parentheses. So the y values are negative between 5/2 and 6. And that is your answer.